welcome yet again to another video. It's me, John, and today I want to just do a discussion talking about Voltron, the Legendary Defender, the Netflix original series, and also it's obviously a DreamWorks production, so I love it. I mean, I'm a big fan of DreamWorks anyways. I love DreamWorks movies, and well, I haven't seen Boss Baby. I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard that's probably one of the worst they've done. I haven't seen. I don't think there was a film. I think there was another film out last year as well that I never saw. But anyway, so I'm a big fan of like Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon, and so on and so forth. A big fan of those films. And Kung Fu Panda. Gotta love Kung Fu Panda. Great films. So I am a big fan, and as you all know, I love animation. I love Transformers. I love My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. I love anything that is, I feel captivated over, anything that invites me in when it comes to its animation, its story, character development, so on and so forth, I really will. If it has a really well-rounded characters, a really good background, and a very interesting premise, I will instantly be captivated over it. But sometimes you don't get that. You get very, very sloppy and lazy writing, and cartoons that are only there to serve viewing purposes. They're only there for viewership. They're only there to, they put them up on the channel to, just for a young, obviously cartoons are meant for a young demographic, but you get my point. The more babies, the more like obviously child-friendly, kid-friendly cartoons these days. They don't have cartoons that I grew up during the 90s and the 80s where there was a lot of violence in them. Obviously cartoon violence, but you know what I mean. There were more mature themes within them. So you got G.I. Joe, which was pretty much just an army recruitment series in a way to try and get kids into the army. If you can, and I'm not just saying that. That is generally it. The way that they kind of made the armed forces and G.I. Joe and everything like that. Obviously, it was called Action Force here in the UK, but it was kind of one of the series that kind of made you think, oh, if I join the army, I'm going to be like him. That's kind of a series which G.I. Joe was kind of like. It was kind of like an invitation to join the army. But then Transformers was like, be an Autobot or Decepticon. But no, it's yeah, once in a while you do get some gems out of the woodwork, and this series of Voltron Legendary Defender is one of them. I love it. I absolutely love this series. Now, what I'm going to talk about in this, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know people probably aren't fully caught up. So I just want to put a little spoiler warning here before I get too far into it. If you're not fully caught up to season 5, there's 5 seasons of it now. Season 5 literally went up about 3 or 4 days ago on Netflix. I'm 2 episodes away from finishing season 5, so I'm pretty much caught up with it all until it gets renewed for another part. So I really am. So I don't want to spoil any more for you, but anyway, so let's move on. You've had that warning anyway. So Voltron has been around for so long. It was originally, I believe, a Japanese anime at one point. I think the original series, is it the 70s? I think it came out, the original. And then, obviously, it's had multiple spin-offs and multiple sequels and different versions for a long time. And then, obviously, there's been like an American and Canadian productions for it as well. Now, this one is obviously, I think, again, American and Canadian, because I think the voice actors are Canadian actors, and some American as well. So it's kind of like a mixture between Canadian and American staff. But it's all, obviously, DreamWorks animation, Netflix original. So it's, I absolutely love it. Mainly, the reason why I love this series so much is because of how in-depth it is with its story. Now, if you look at Voltron from like the 70s, I know I'm comparing something modern to something classic, and people don't like it when you do that because it's an unfair statement, but it's unfair to really class something to something that's got all the mod cons and it's got all the bells and whistles of its production, but then something that was all done on cells and so on and so forth, which was obviously back in the 70s. But I mean, Voltron, the original series for its time, was incredibly clever, and it was really well. Well, there was some really corny and ropey animation errors in it, but you gotta just take it for what it is. That's its charm. You know, that's the charm of a lot of 70s and 80s animation. There was some animation cell errors, like there was like some like in Transformers is a prime one. And Chris McFeely, he when he was at TF Nation, he did a panel talking about like errors and mistakes that happened. You know, like there was like the original kind of episode, there would be like characters there 1 minute, and then the next scene, those characters will either be completely gone, or a character would be a completely different color, or something like that. So like completely, like the cell animation was kind of completely wrong, and the continuity errors and so on and so forth. You know, you get that pretty much in everything. But when it came to earlier animation, you got it a little bit more often, because you're dealing with cells and you're dealing with different artists and maybe some miscommunication between people, so you get these errors sometimes. So, but when you so the like I said, the original series that was done is a classic. You know, you got to enjoy it. You got to respect it, because it was like the main series that really started the rest of them to come out and inspired other people to give it their personal spin. And so we now come to this one, the DreamWorks Legendary Defender series, and it's compared to the original, it just doesn't. You found out the reason why these group of kids come together, to form Voltron. But the story obviously is a little bit more basic. But then when you come to Legendary Defender, the reason why I prefer it over some stuff that's come out recently is that the story is so much in depth. It's not difficult to understand. It's still relatively easy for a younger person to watch, but you can tell this is a series that's more centered not to a child. It's more centered around a kind of like young teen to young adult. I'd say that is kind of what this is kind of like centered to, because you can tell it's got a lot of mature themes in there. It's got death, it's got kidnapping, it's got torture in it, it's got very dark and sinister themes, not scenes, themes within it. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and the characters would essentially, I would think, if a kid of 5 or 6 years old watched this series, I mean, there's some 5 or 6 year olds that are incredibly brave and they'll watch anything. But there is some out there that will have a kind of a very shy nature, and if they saw some of the characters that kind of leaping out and very very sinister and dark characters, it might maybe scare a few little kids. So you could see that this is almost certainly for a bit more of an older demographic. And I respect it for that, because I like it when animation goes to more of a mature theme, a little bit more of a mature demographic, because it completely separates it from the rest of the stuff that is playing to a child-friendly manner. And I love it when animation does that. But like I said, it's got multiple layers within the story. It's got, you've got, like I said, you've got Pidge, who is pretty much, she's the Green Line pilot. And Pidge, I love Pidge. She is awesome. I really love Pidge. She's a great character, really well rounded. There's good humour with her. There's also really good serious drama with her as well, because obviously she's also on a side mission to try and find her brother and a father, which is really really good. So that's kind of like a side thing to the story. Then you've got Shira, who's the main guy, who's the part of the Black Lion. He's obviously the guy in charge of the group, and he's got a lot of multi layers that you're still kind of working out. You only know so much about him. You only know about that he pretty much managed to get back on Earth after being in prison. He broke out of a Gora ship, managed to get back to Earth, and he was experimented on. He had his arm taken away and replaced by a cybernetic arm. he's pretty much been through a lot of shit, and so pretty much he's kind of like getting kind of his personal revenge back on the Gora, and there's other stuff going on that he's obviously he's plagued by a lot of other stuff. You can tell that in season 5. I won't say what's happening, but in season 5, there's something playing on his mind that he's not told the team, and they're all a bit worried about him at the moment. So Shearer's got quite a lot of multiple layers about his character. Then you've got Lance, and is it Chunk? The yellow lion pilot. I've forgotten his name now. No, Crunk. See I can't remember now. Can't remember his name. But anyway, so Lance is the blue lion. He's now the red lion pilot because for some reason since I think from season 3 or season 4, they essentially switched pilots. Because the red line was actually piloted by a different guy, and he's gone off to do his own thing with a different team. And now Lance has taken over his line, and Princess Allura is now the blue lion pilot. So they've kind of had a swap around. I thought that was really quite clever how they swapped the pilots are swapped to different lions now. That's kind of an interesting thing I liked about it. And also what I like about this series is, like you say, you've got Lance and you've got Chunk. There's still some development with those characters still coming. They've mainly been comedy relief, those two characters, but they're starting to be a bit more serious, and they think they're starting to find their place within the team finally. So like I said, so there's really good character development, and there's a lot of multiple layers. You've got the main story. Excuse me. You got the main story, which is obvious. There are a bunch of kids off of Earth that get entangled into this whole interdimensional fight between the Gora and the rest of the universe. They then pretty much, when Shiro manages to come back to Earth, he's the main catalyst that gets all the kids together, and then they go off, and then they meet Princess Allura. Obviously, I'm trying to be a bit quicker with the story, but they meet Princess Allura, and then Princess Allura then introduces them to that they are destined to be the pilots of the next Padawans of the Voltron or the Lions. So on and so forth, and so that's pretty much that. And then, so that's the main story. And then obviously they had to fight the Gora and try and bring peace to the universe. And that's pretty much the main story. And then you've got all these other parts of the story, such as like character development and individual story arcs that are happening at the moment, which was really intriguing. And I really like the multiple layers to the series. It's great. It is fantastic. If you've not watched it yet, I urge you to, because if you're a fan of DreamWorks, if you're a fan of some of Netflix's animation, if you generally if you've seen anything from the past Voltron stuff, then I think you might really enjoy this as well. It's just a very good modern take on a classic, and I think they've really done it justice, and it's beautifully animated, great action scenes, great acting. The voice acting is fantastic in this. And it's just a really good series. So thank you very much for watching this. I hope you've enjoyed my little discussion on Voltron Legendary Defender. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay awesome and see you all very soon. Bye bye.